Now, Chiron is in the 14th degree of Aries for about a month. A serpent coiling near a man and a woman. This is to do with making relationships sacred. We get drawn into relationship by sexual desire and emotional need to learn how to internalize polarity. Rebellious immaturity is only to be dealt with when we master polarity inwardly, rather than by seeking another person to make up for our lack of wisdom and emotional poise. Facing relationship in sacredness is the key. And this depends upon the recognition of sacredness in relationship and tuning into the rhythms of natural energy, not enslaved by passion and need. Well, this is a really big question, isn't it? And Chiron is there. So with Chiron, we're thinking about the healing of old wounds. And the way in which we set about that healing process is the essence of Chiron's secret, which is shifting perception. So first of all, we have to identify a wound, and then we have to change our way of thinking about it. And then we see that the wound itself actually isn't a wound at all. It's a teaching, it's a lesson. Those two things are not the same. And we have come intentionally incarnating into these life experiences in order to experience these lessons, but not as wounds, as stepping stones towards greater consciousness, greater ability to finesse life situations. Now, of all the things that we do in life, sex is very, very central. And what comes often from sex, the raising of children. These are fundamental imperatives in life. And Chiron going through this particular degree suggests that we have some work to do, and this is a good time to do it. And that work has to do with identifying how we're not quite getting this right, this whole thing of relationship. Identifying that we are not getting it right first. Then, in exactly what way we're not getting it right, what actually is going wrong here. And thirdly, how can we turn this around to make it sacred? Perhaps that's actually what we're not getting right. Sacredness, to bring sacredness to relationship, is thought to be a requirement by the highest spiritual teachings. Now, on Jones's text, we see this. Aries 14, a serpent coiling near a man and a woman. This is a symbol of the threefold nature of man and its aspect of a high competency on the subjective side. There are here the emotional and rational elements of selfhood as they achieve their unity through the creative ordering of a universal wisdom. Implicit in the phallic significance is a fullness of being, following on from the everyday satisfaction of ordinary human appetites, but only as these are made a manifestation of a higher appreciation, of a greater self-dedication. When positive, this degree is exceptional self-discipline in the continual acquisition of a very real understanding, and when negative, a surrender to lower or transient impulses in every area of personal experience. So he's gone beyond sex itself to say that this general principle applies, that we have natural appetites, that the animal side of us has. We are half animal, half angel, and the animal part of us has 4 imperatives: fight and flight, feeding, and sexual reproduction. Now, that's central to us, that's inherent within us, that links us to the earth, that's the root that binds us into this physicality of being where we are. And we have to deal with that. We're not going to be able to turn that off. We are animals. However, we have conscience, we have consciousness, we have a spiritual dimension. We're looking for God. As much as we are animals, we're still looking to be angels. Now, sex is the biggest challenge there for most people, but it's also worth mentioning that the men and women are different on this. The men are much more inclined towards sex than women, I would say, as a general statement, notwithstanding that certain individuals are differently aligned. But generally speaking, the imperative of the sperm is to impregnate an egg despite a million competitors. But the imperative of an egg is to know that were she were penetrated, she's got 25 years of care for the child that's going to be born to think about. It's a different imperative that we're motivated by, and neither of those imperatives are of the angelic kingdom. Both are from the animal kingdom. Both the urge to have babies and the risk of having babies on the one hand, and the duty of our species to keep itself alive. The fundamental duty of our species is perpetuation, and each individual in recognition of that duty is trying to continue the line, the species, whether we have that in consciousness or not. The body is motivated strongly in that direction. Now, the higher part of us, the spiritual aspect of our being, has the possibility to overcome this animal tendency for sex and reproduction, but only if it's present when the act arises, when the emotion comes to us. At that point, when we feel the animal desire for sex and reproduction, at that point we have to bring in the angelic voice, just to say, look, is this the right person to be having sex with? Is this the right time to be having babies? That sense of conscience and responsibility and spiritual awareness. It's very challenging indeed. We all know the imperative to have sexual involvement is almost overwhelming at times. More for some people than others, but most of us have experienced that, I'm sure. And for the angelic part of us, the spiritual consciousness, to actually say that not now, it's not the right time, not the right person, it's just not right. That's so difficult. Even more than that is when we actually do practice the sexual joy and prayer in raising the Kundalini. When we do this, if we can do this, if we can even think about the possibility of doing this, we're trying to bridge between the earth and the heavens. The Kundalini is likened to the snake. That's the imagery in this work, that the snake is the Kundalini. And the snake used to rise when it were the Kundalini energy in practice. So the vertical operation of the snake. But when the snake falls on its belly, this metaphorically means the Kundalini is not being engaged. And when we're not having Kundalini sex, then we're having animal sex. And so that's what it means to have the serpent lying on the ground rather than raised in the urge to unite Shiva and Shakti energy. And it's not only sex that gives us this Kundalini experience. There are other spiritual practices that can do this. Dancing is included. And if you're aware of that level of sacred dance, you will notice this kind of electrical buzzing going through your spine. You think, yeah, something good is happening. Not necessarily the first time, it could be a bit scary. But that kind of powerful rising of energy from the earth to heaven, from heaven down to earth, that's the Kundalini energy. And we can access it through sex, we can access it through prayer, we can access it through consciousness, just being aware of it as a breathing exercise. When we do this fundamental breathing exercise, of breathing in and breathing out, with a visualization of up and down. And that can be taken further. There is a practice in Sufism called the Kundalini breathing practice, where we actually imagine spiraling, in other words, snakes inside us going up and down. So here we have what Rudyard calls what Jones calls the threefold aspects of life. And the serpent represents the Kundalini, man, woman, serpent. In other words, male, female connectedness. Now, the interplay between a man and a woman has a certain electricity. Notwithstanding age difference, notwithstanding all manner of other factors which you'd think would stop this, nevertheless, if you're talking to one person of the opposite sex, there's some kind of electrical magnetism in the air. And that magnetism is the Kundalini, of a sort. It is a diluted form of it. It's the electricity of polarity. So we're studying the fact that here we are in life trying to balance the yang and the yin. And when we do, it feels great. So bring that into sex. Bring that into everything. Bring that into your own consciousness. That what we're trying to do is not achieve something like a man or just wait for something like a woman, exaggeratedly stated. It's just to be both in the moment. That's what feminism is, I would have thought.